Welcome to the panel, Jehan Harney. Very nice to have you here.
Thank you.
What have these women accomplished so far?
I think before we talk about accomplishments, we need to draw the line between two issues. Islam and the cultural practice of Islam. What these women are calling for, basically equality between men and women in the mosque, has actually been practiced traditionally in Islam during the days of the Prophet. Women used to pray either side by side men or behind men. They were part of the same space, of the same cultural learning and religious spiritual experience.
So why did the women, why did it change, and why did the women at the time of the change accept the change?
Today is that what we see is the cultural practice of it in the mosques. We see barriers introduced by a lot of them are immigrant Muslims, come from cultures that have basically been extra protective of women, basically keeping them in a separate space, and they've brought that with them here. So you find nearly like 2/3 of these mosques have introduced a barrier, put them in a separate space, and in some instances, some mosques have actually, few mosques have actually not really welcomed women there because there's no space, especially during Friday prayers. These mosques are traditionally in a basement or a home or an apartment building, so the space is very limited, and they're also understanding of where women should be is also limited. They see women's place is actually in the home and not the mosque.
Do you think they can succeed in breaking this barrier?
The reason I think they can is because this is how change happens. Always from somebody pushing from the far reaches inside. You've said something very important. I never realized that this was culturally rather than religiously imposed. And if it's culturally imposed, these women are doing exactly the wrong
that's
thing.
what they say, for example, about the burqa, that it's not, you know, obviously
it's
all
cultural.
Islamic women don't wear it, but certain cultures adopted it, like the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Exactly, exactly. So I think what these women are actually doing is shedding light on a particular practice in mosques that is not really in line with the true spirit of traditional Islam, of what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has practiced in his days. And I think, you know, in cases when women are not really welcomed in the mosque, whether they're being told as such or whether they just don't find the space to be there, I think it's a sad issue, because women in this culture, you know, who need to be more in touch with their faith in a foreign land, they feel like they want to be part of that community. So if they're not being welcomed enough, do not have enough space, and are not really represented in on the boards of these mosques, then they're being really kept away.
Let me ask you a question. You're obviously not wearing a head covering, and when I see women, a lot of in my neighborhood, wearing the head covering, I feel like they're setting it, not meaning to, obviously, but in a way they're setting American women back, and I find it very offensive because we've fought so hard for what we have here. What do you say to those women? First of all, why they continue to shroud themselves when they're in a country where they can be free and they can be Islamic without covering themselves?
So are you actually asking why women continue to wear the veil in a culture when they don't have to be?
Right, and what Americans should understand about why they're doing it.
I think I actually made a film on this, a short documentary called The Colors of Veil, and I featured a former U.S. soldier who converted to Islam and now basically wears the veil, and it's trying to make a difference, bringing cultures and people of different faiths together through her veil. And it's a personal choice. When I see somebody basically tattooing all his body or piecing his body, it's a personal choice. So, and it's a form of modesty. They're trying not to really follow the trend that's basically set by men, according to, you know, this person whose name is whose original name is Kim, and now it's Khairia. So, so basically, she doesn't want to follow the trend set by men, and she just wants to be modest, and the attention that she gets just for her work and not for her looks or her attire. That's their personal view on these things.
Quickly.
I think that for us, where, you know, your outward appearance and freedom of expression in our culture, it's difficult to reconcile that. I understand that. And I think that also when you're looking at a culture that's so ancient, like in places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, you know, the resilience of the women there and the freedom that they're trying to put forth and the empowerment there, it should be applauded, because the oppression that they are under, not only from culturally but religiously, it seems, is exponentially different than what we experience here in America, and we should be proud of them for doing that.
All right, and that's where we'll have to end that.